In this video, I'm using my guide to exploring dungeons to create an awesome one-page dungeon. So my pal Scott and a bunch of my lovely patrons started a game jam. They're using my Exploring Dungeon zines to create their own dungeons, and they're posting them to itch.io. Now, you don't have to be a patron, and you don't even really need the zine to take part in the jam. The first link down in the description will take you to the jam page where you can check it out. It runs all the way through the end of this month, the end of January. I can't wait to see what kind of dungeons people make, and I'm really excited to make a one-page dungeon in this video for the jam. Okay, so what exactly is a one-page dungeon? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a dungeon on a single sheet of paper, and I think it is a wonderful creative project because everything being on a single sheet of paper really forces you to boil your ideas down and only put the most necessary stuff. And that's especially great for running games of D&D or other tabletop role-playing games. Having everything you need, the map, all of the info on a single sheet of paper just makes it so easy. So just like everybody else in this jam, I'm going to be using the Exploring Dungeon zine to make my one-page dungeon. So let me tell you a little bit about the zine, and then we'll jump into actual one-page dungeon creation. So this Exploring Dungeon zine is my kind of process for creating dungeons. It's a really simple way of generating a dungeon pretty quickly, and it's perfect for one-page dungeons. The zine asks a bunch of questions that help you formulate the setting and the conflict going on within this dungeon, and if you get stuck, there are a bunch of random tables that'll help you out, as well as some advice on how to take your initial ideas and expand upon them to make a fully formed dungeon. Actually, if you're working on a Dungeon 23 project this year and need some helpful prompts, I think the Exploring Dungeon zine would be really helpful, especially at the start of every month, just as a way to generate some ideas and themes for every dungeon level of your mega dungeon. So you can get the zine from my online shop, which is also linked in the description. As of making this video, I'm dangerously low on inventory, but a second printing of the zine is at the printer right now, so if it's sold out, that's just temporary. Check back. You can also get the digital version from itch.io, or you can spend the same amount of money and become a patron. Get the digital version there, plus a bunch of other helpful zines and fun tabletop role-playing game adventures. Okay, that's enough of an ad. Let's talk about this one-page dungeon that I'm making. I'm starting by rolling up some ideas from the zine. All you need is a sheet of paper, something to write with, and 2 6-sided dice. Just by rolling on a few of these tables, I've come up with an ice cave filled with trolls and machines. I've got a few rooms planned out with defenses that'll help me come up with fun encounters later, and I've got the beginning of a story about a frost spell and a bunch of ancient dwarves and a shooting star. Next, I'm gonna take just a little bit of time to pace around my office and think about the random rolls that I've made, just 5 minutes or so, kind of pontificating on how to connect all of these different ideas. Then I'm just gonna start making some notes. I'm writing down just a really basic concept for the dungeon, you know, a reason to go to this ice cave, who lives there, what sort of conflict is happening in the cave, and what will happen if the players don't interject in this conflict. I'm also making a list of a few NPCs that I think would be interesting for the players to meet, plus any other details that just kind of pop into my head. This probably takes another 5 to 10 minutes tops. Once all of the story bits and ideas are written down, then it's time to move on to the visual part and sketch out my dungeon. Originally, as I was doing the writing, I thought this ice cave was gonna have a bunch of rooms like a typical dungeon, but then I thought it would be more interesting for it to be more maze-like with random encounters. I want this cave to feel like a hive of activity with all this stuff going on. There are just a couple of really important locations locations, but otherwise the players aren't gonna know what they're gonna find around each and every corner of this crazy ice cave. So this sketch phase is just really sloppy and more for getting an idea of the visual layout of the cave. At this point though, if I were just running this dungeon myself and not making it available for others to use, I'd probably be about done. I've got a pretty clear idea of what's going on in the dungeon, and this is just enough of a layout for me to be able to describe what's going on to the players. But of course, I'm gonna take it a step further because I do want to draw a cool map and make a fun one-page dungeon for people to use. And I'm doing all of this to submit to the Exploring Dungeons Game Jam. So I've re-sketched out the map onto a piece of graph paper, and with my favorite Posca markers, I'm just gonna start drawing. Okay, so what's going on inside this ice cave? Well, a shooting star has struck this frozen mountain and it's starting to melt things inside. Water has started to flow through the cavern, so that's like a fun hazard when everything else is totally frozen and cold. There are the frost trolls that live in the cave. They were hibernating until the shooting star hit, and now they're all awake and agitated. The star is melting the ice, and it's actually revealing these ancient dwarven machines that have kind of sprung back to life and are now patrolling inside the cave and causing trouble. And one of the main things these machines are doing is they're trying to dig out this huge drill machine that the ancient dwarves created. So like way long ago, a group of dwarves came to this mountain in search of gold, but when they started digging, they stumbled upon this ash parasite, and the only way to stop it from spreading was to freeze it. So they cast this powerful spell that froze the entire mountain, including all of the machines that they brought to dig out the mountain and some of their infected friends that are now thawing out of the ice as dwarven zombies. So the players are exploring this ice cave in search of this fallen star that they want to take back to the town's wizard for a large sum of money. And they have a few options. They can run in and grab the star, or they could also try and destroy this big drill machine once they find out about this really dangerous ash parasite. Of course, there are the ice trolls that aren't too happy about these intruders in their homes, and all of the machines and dwarven zombies that are running around. You know, they're not gonna stop what they're doing either. So having this story in my head makes it really easy to come up with some fun encounters for the dungeon. I like to focus on interesting NPCs to meet and creative ways to explain the story of this place. And then the fun part is seeing how the players will interact with all these moving pieces and parts. You know, how are they gonna solve this ash parasite problem, get their hands on the falling star, and escape the cave alive? So yeah, I really love coming up with these fun little dungeons, and it's been really nice to spend the afternoon drawing this one-page dungeon. Once I'm all finished with the drawing, I scan it in and add the text to the illustration. You totally could write out all the information by hand, but I'm taking it to the computer just so it's extra clear for everybody who downloads the one-page dungeon. So I really think that these one-page dungeons make the perfect one shot. They're really easy for dungeon masters to use and prep. And for me, I've found that you can fit just the right amount of information on a single sheet of paper for one session of play. In next week's video, I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth with how I prepare and write single session one-shot adventures, so definitely subscribe for that. If you'd like to grab the final version of Into the Icebound Caves, head on over to the Exploring Dungeons Game Jam on Itch, link in the description. It's available for free over there. Definitely take a look around, and hopefully you feel inspired to create your own dungeon and you submit it to the Exploring Dungeons Game Jam. Maybe at the end of the month, I'll make a video checking out all of the awesome dungeons that people have submitted to the jam. Let me know what you think of the Icebound Caves down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!